It is a blessing and a privilege to share this message with you all today. Throughout my years of studying at the feet of great pastors and great teachers, I've heard it said that preaching from the lectionary can push one to understand the scriptures in ways that we might otherwise overlook. I love engaging daily with the daily and weekly lectionary readings. Today, I will be sharing a condensed version of my 10 or 12 pages of notes on the lectionary readings for today. I mentioned earlier, today is the penultimate Sunday of the lectionary year C. We have A, B, and C. It is a 3-year cycle. It is a great way to hear the Word of God fresh every few years. This week's text naturally prepares us for Advent, a season of waiting that lies just ahead. It's often been said that scriptures contain 365 references of do not fear or don't be afraid. That is the theme we are exploring in our Advent class this year. Last week, our kiddos, Ryan and Micah, Josephine and her friend Cara, they started their Advent classes, but they are under strict orders to not share all the answers with the adults when they get around to their classes later in the month. While the exact count may or may not be 365, I'm sure it depends on your translation, it is a comforting idea that God offers us a daily reminder not to fear. It gives us a reminder for every day of the year, except I suppose February 29th, during a leap year, then you can go ahead and have all the fears you want. Not unlike other times in history, we are living in a time that feels increasingly marked by strife and fear. Whether it's political divides, the crushing weight of systemic inequality, or even the sometimes staggering anxiety of just daily life. It often feels like the ground beneath our very feet is shaking. In moments like these, we often look for certainty, for an anchor, for a swift end to that chaos. 2,000 years ago, it wasn't so much different for the disciples of Jesus and those that heard him speak during his time of ministry. Looking at the majestic temple in Jerusalem, the symbol of their faith and the power of the Israelites, Jesus told them, "These things that you see, the days will come when not one stone will be left upon another and will not be thrown down." Naturally, those that heard him speak these words asked, "Teacher, when will this be? And what will be the sign that this is about to take place?" As we read in Luke 21:8, Jesus' response is direct. "Beware that you are not led astray, for many will come in my name and say, 'I am he,' and the time is near." But don't go after them. Don't follow them. Jesus' warning here addresses the very human tendency to seek false hope in fear and sensationalism. Jesus cautions us against precisely this kind of distraction. He tells us that the focus is not on decoding the timeline, but on discerning the type of faith that we practice. So, what type of faith do we practice? The history of our Christian faith, since around 380 Common Era, when Christianity became the official religion of Rome, thank you, Emperor Theodosius I, there have been two conflicting and opposing traditions of Christianity: the Church of Empire and the Jesus-centered church. Earlier this week, as I was preparing, timing is a wonderful thing and the algorithms are great, I saw an Instagram post by Bishop O.C. Allen Bishop O.C. Allen is the presiding bishop and founder of the United Progressive Pentecostal Fellowship of Churches. And in this post, he states, "Here is the truth your pastor will never tell you. Good news, I am not your pastor, so I can share this with you." He goes on to say, and I am paraphrasing here, "The history of the Christian faith can be understood as a conflict between two opposing traditions. One is the original vision of Jesus, which focused on radical love, liberation, healing, and prioritizing the marginalized. The other is empire Christianity, which has historically co-opted the faith to serve as justification for violence, control, power, and oppression. From the Crusades to colonization and slavery. When discussing what Christianity stands for, we must clarify which version we mean, recognizing that any practice of the faith that fails to free, love, or heal people aligns with the oppressive empire tradition, not the genuine teachings of Jesus. We must choose the path of the carpenter over the colonizer, understanding that Jesus' sacrifice was for freedom, not for the sake of political power." In his book, Better Ways to Read the Bible, Zach W. Lambert walks us through reading the Bible using lenses of harm and lenses of healing. I cannot recommend this book enough. I believe my copy is somewhere in David's office right now, but I would be happy to lend it out. It is easily one of the top 3 books I've read this year. Lenses of healing are the Jesus-centered lenses. Lenses that cause harm are the empire-centered lenses, meant to control and maintain a certain type of power structure that upholds the empire. As Bishop O.C. Allen powerfully stated, and as Zach Lambert explores in his book, we must choose between the Church of Empire and the Jesus-centered church, lenses of harm and lenses of healing. The Church of Empire is one that co-opts the beautiful, radical faith of Jesus and turns it into a tool for violence, control, power, and oppression. It is the theology that justified colonization, blessed slavery, and still today maintains systems of injustice. It operates through lenses of fear, promising salvation in exchange for obedience to the power structure. The Jesus-centered church, the church that we strive to be, is the original vision, focused on radical love, liberation, healing, and prioritizing the marginalized. Even those of us that are part of the mainline Protestant traditions must confront how the empire lens still shapes us. We know that we should be a Jesus-centered church, but we fall into this trap when we assume that we need to bring Jesus to the marginalized and the oppressed. This assumption is a vestige of colonialism. It positions us at the powerful center, carrying salvation to the periphery. The truth of the gospel is far more liberating. Jesus is already with them. He is already present in the struggles, in the fights for justice, and in the resilience of oppression. Our calling is not to bring him, but to join him, to join Jesus in the work of hope that is already being done. The revelation in Luke 21 is eschatological. I really just threw that word in because I wanted to practice saying it. It is eschatological. It speaks of last things and final judgment, but not in a way designed to make us afraid. It is a revelation to encourage our faith when empire is crushing us, reminding us that its systems will not have the ultimate say. The popular fear-based theology of the rapture, which I know has been discussed various times, probably in the Revelation class that David taught earlier this year, is a great example of an empire-centered theology built on control, not on the genuine, freeing teachings of Christ. These are not the last things that Luke is talking about. In his commentary, Luke for Everyone, Anglican bishop and biblical scholar, New Testament biblical scholar, N.T. Wright notes, the destruction of the temple, keep in mind this was written a while ago, the destruction of the temple, as described in Luke 21, verse 6, would have been unimaginable to the Jews of Jesus' time, as it would have been as unimaginable as the destruction of the White House is to modern Americans. As I read these words earlier this month, I quite literally laughed out loud. How little did Tom Wright know just how right he was? Can you imagine 20 or 30 years ago, someone telling you that a sitting president would demolish the east wing of the White House to build a ballroom? Not only that, but it would be done at a time when the government is shut down, tens of millions of vulnerable people, children, the disabled, and elderly, are unable to receive their food assistance, the very safety net of our society. Much like the Jews reading Luke after the temple had fallen, we are witnessing the shocking destruction of a seat of power. This stark image is the perfect lens through which to understand the conflict between the two churches. When power prioritizes a ballroom over the nourishment of the hungry, a power supported and bolstered by some Christian leaders in these United States, that is the essence of empire Christianity in action. It aligns perfectly with Jesus' warning that we should not trust the signs of success in this world, because systems built on human pride and oppression will eventually fall. Jesus says that even the magnificent temple, the ultimate symbol of worldly religious success, will be destroyed. Even though it was a time that Jerusalem was under occupation, the symbol of the temple was still so important to the people. Do not trust the signs of this world's success. The hope is in that systems built by human empire, no matter how mighty, will fall. God's faithfulness to us invites our faithfulness to God and our perseverance. This perseverance prepares us to live into the promise of the new creation. Here again, the expansive vision from Isaiah 65, 17 through 19. For I am about to create new heavens and a new earth. The former things shall not be remembered or come to mind. But be glad and rejoice forever in what I am creating. For I am about to create Jerusalem as a joy and its people as a delight. I will rejoice in Jerusalem and delight in my people. No more shall the sound of weeping be heard or the cries of distress. This new creation is a state of restoration. It is a state of justice. It is a state of security. It is a world where all people will build, plant, and enjoy the fullness of their lives. It is a promise of life fulfilled, not a theology of escape. So how do we shift? How do we shift from the church of empire to the church that is Jesus-centered, that we are called to be? And how do we prepare for God's new creation? It is a work both of deconstruction and construction. You cannot have one without the other. We deconstruct the lens of fear and control, trusting in God's constant message, the daily message, do not be afraid. And we construct a life centered on Christ's actions. And this is where 2 Thessalonians 3 is an essential part supporting text this week. In 2 Thessalonians, Paul addresses those who believe that the end is near, and so they become idle. What difference does it make? The end is near. But he warns them a life of hope is not a life of passive waiting. Paul urges brothers and sisters, do not weary in doing what is right. 2 Thessalonians 3:13. Living the hope of new creation is active. It is persistent. And it is a rejection of idleness and a commitment to responsible, dignified work. There is work to be done. And this is the work of the Jesus-centered church. When we center our lives on the hopeful message of Jesus, we work for food equity, healthcare equity, and housing access, among so many other things. We persist through the crushing weight of empire to work for a world in which every person has what they need. This is how we sow the seeds of Isaiah 65, right here, right now. This work should not feel like a grim obligation, but a joyful undertaking. As we're reminded by the hymn of thanksgiving and praise in Isaiah 12, you will say on that day, I will give thanks to you, O Lord. For though you were angry with me, your anger turned away and you comforted me. Surely God is my salvation. I will trust and will not be afraid. For the Lord is my strength and my might. He has become my salvation. With joy, you will draw water from the wells of salvation, and you will say on that day, give thanks to the Lord, call on his name, make known his deeds among the nations, proclaim that his name is exalted. Sing praises to the Lord, for he has done gloriously. Let this be known in all the earth. Shout aloud and sing for joy, O royal Zion, for great in your midst is the Holy One of Israel. We do the work of the Christ-centered church, remembering that we are not bringing Jesus to the oppressed, but we are joining him joyfully in the liberation work that he has already promised and Jesus is already doing. Jesus concludes his revelation in Luke with a powerful promise in the midst of suffering. Luke 21:19, by your endurance, you will gain your souls. Endurance is the radical act of persistently living the ethics of the carpenter in the face of the colonizer's chaos. It is the faithfulness that prepares us for the new creation. We must heed Jesus' final caution in Luke 21:34. Be on your guard so that your hearts are not weighed down and that day does not catch you unexpectedly. Friends, do not let the negativity and overwhelming nature of the world weigh down your heart or dull your commitment to Christ's radical love. Let us leave this place anchored in the truth of God's coming kingdom. Let us choose the path of the carpenter over the colonizer, deconstructing our fears and constructing justice until God's will is done on earth as it is in heaven. Amen.